Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the Tories' latest acts of performative cruelty and how I think this time there's a good chance they'll fall flat. In actual fact, my video was going to be on the latest with Humza Yousaf. It was all done nice and early because I go out on a Monday morning, and then the graceless oaf decides to call a press conference for noon. So a nifty switch has had to occur. It's not just Rishi Sunak who doesn't appreciate my schedule, is it? But anyway, I'll be discussing who had Rishi Sunak outlasting Humza Yousaf on their bingo card later on now. Back to the Tories. So they're having a bit of a blitz this week, ahead of the crucial local and mayoral elections. Not on policies, they'd say on policies, but performative cruelty. We've had two announcements so far. What's the betting there's going to be more later? First, randomly detaining a load of asylum seekers. Second, saying that disabled people, amongst others, can't be trusted with money, so they should be given vouchers instead. Now, although these sound like policies, they're really not. First, the asylum seekers they detain will inevitably be released next week because the government don't actually have anywhere to detain them. And second, the government won't be swapping cash payments for vouchers for disabled people. If they'd genuinely thought this would be a good idea, it would have been implemented after a review and all the rest of it. It would have been done by now. Along with the other claptrap, including Sunak's welfare speech the other week, there's no time to implement any of this before the general election. And it hasn't come as a result of any review into the situation. It's just one of those things he's made up. Oh, we need to say something to get the gammons back on side. Oh, we'll just say this thing. These acts and statements are the last desperate acts of psychopaths whose egos are not equipped to cope with the task of recognising, let alone dealing with, the sheer scale of their dismal failures. Rishi Sunak, by all accounts, is genuinely surprised that the polls are still where they are now. He cannot believe that the public don't think he's amazing. 14 years ago, the Conservatives came to power full of ideas about how they were going to turn the country around. They've all failed, every last one. Yeah, sure, billionaires became more billionaire-y, so you could argue their primary goal succeeded. But many Conservatives believed there would be wider benefits. Benefits came there none. But rather than rethink their ideas after their hypotheses failed, they cast around looking for people to blame. Now, it's very common for Tories to blame both immigrants and the disabled, so this week's attacks should come as no surprise. But I think on this occasion, they're actually going to end up misfiring. Detaining asylum seekers. Now, sure, this sounds safe enough for them. Asylum seekers can't vote. Easy target. And I'm not going to harbour any hopes that maybe lots of Conservative voters will see the shameless cruelty in any of this. But where are they going to be detained? Because correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that 100% of asylum seeker detention stories over the past year or two have bitten the Tories on the arse. And I think it will again. As soon as you announce that the detentions are going to happen, journalists are inevitably going to start reporting on where they're being detained. Well, we don't have capacity for anything like this. In case people forgot, the government are currently releasing prisoners, convicted criminals, early because we don't actually have long-term detention facilities spare, to say nothing of the staff needed. So it seems to be that these detentions are going to be short-term, designed to hoodwink people for the locals. But what happens to voter attitudes when they find out that the detentions were just temporary? It's all right detaining these people and getting it in the newspapers. What about when you release them? And what for? They're just doing this for the next few days for the local elections. Isn't the general election more important? What are the voter attitudes going to be for the general election when they find out? How is that going to boost the Tories ahead of the Westminster elections? Then this voucher idea. It's saying that disabled people can't cope with budgeting, as if people with disabilities all have severe learning difficulties as well. But where this will really backfire is that this is not just intended for those on disabilities, those on with serious mental illnesses as well. And the thing about mental illness is that affects everyone, including the middle classes of suburbia. I don't think the Tories have been sufficiently narrow with their attack here. Their welfare attacks usually work on the basis of their target voters don't mix with the people they're attacking, the life on benefits. most of whom, remember, are for people who are employed. They're in work just on slave wages. But this latest attack runs the risk of including people who do cross over with their target voters. And I suppose it should come as no surprise. Rishi Sunak has shown zero sign of any strategic operation as leader. And he's clearly reacting under pressure here. He desperately needs the results this week not to be seen as disastrous. It doesn't matter if they are disastrous or not. This isn't an objective statement. Tory MPs have a certain level of performance in mind. If the results are better than that, Sunak's fine. If they're worse than that, maybe not so fine. He's worried about confidence letters. And so Sunak is trying everything he thinks might help. But because he understands nothing of politics, he's trying to ape traditional Tory divide and rule tactics. But he's not getting it right. He will still cause a lot of damage to society trying, of course. I would urge people, try and remember that most of what Sunak is saying is not actually going to be implemented before the election. I mean, first, he doesn't really want to. He's just saying it. But second, he doesn't really have very much time. I know some of the things he's been saying lately have been causing distress, but it's very unlikely he can carry out any major changes of policy at this point. Any brand new policy would really need shoulders put behind it to get it through. There's only a few weeks left realistically before summer. And then there's if the election is going to be held at the very last minute, there's a few weeks before conferences, then, not very long before Christmas. There's not much time. But all this is a knee-jerk reaction. It's a knee-jerk reaction for the local and mayoral elections. That's all it is. And he will worry about the fallout afterwards. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.